A to the K.
To the K.
To the K. Hello, welcome fans and friends, and odds and ends to another week of the A2theK Wrestling Show. As always, we'll kick off proceedings by throwing it over to Road Dogg for A2theK's little known fact of the week.
Oh, you didn't know?
Oh yeah, thanks Road Dogg, thank you. As we know, AEW set the wrestling world on fire with the recent acquisition of Ruby Soho, Bryan Danielson, CM Punk and Adam Cole, baby. But did you know Adam Cole actually made his WWE debut much earlier than 2017, Anthony? Any ideas on when that might be? Any ideas?
2011.
Oh, so close. It's almost like you read the notes and then just,
It's almost like, I didn't want to make out like I read the notes, so I changed it ever so slightly. But I wouldn't do that, Carl.
No, of course not. Of course not. So, it was close. You were close, 2011. It was actually 2010, of course, in an angle with CM Punk himself. It was during the time when the straight edge society was a thing. Obviously, you know, the angle saw the wonderful Serena Deeb, as we've come to know and love her, drinking in a bar with an unnamed accomplice, who was none other than Adam Cole, baby. Obviously, that all culminated in, you know, CM Punk being a bit like, "Nah, you drinking? Don't drink." And then the, you know, faction disbanded shortly thereafter. So, yeah, there you have it. Adam Cole was actually in WWE as early as 2010.
Well,
and now he's back in the same company.
At the bar.
Well,
in 2010.
He was on WWE TV, damn it. But now he's back in the same company as Serena Deeb and CM Punk in 2021.
I wonder if they're going to recreate that scene.
Maybe. I mean, there was a fan who offered CM Punk a drink from the audience. Did you see that? CM Punk jumped into the audience again, and the fan was like, CM Punk, do you want a drink? And he was like, you fucking stupid. And the guy immediately realised what he'd done and was like, sorry. Yeah, terrible. But yeah, so that was A2theK's little known fact of the week, and here is Road Dogg once again to sing us out.
Oh, you didn't know?
Beautiful. So, Anthony, we're talking this week in wrestling, as we always do. And we are kicking off, Anthony, I believe, with WWE. Tell us, what's the first highlight this week?
Yeah. For me, I'm going to jump straight over to SmackDown. And one of the... Not so much... I was going to say one of the better SmackDowns. SmackDown's been consistently decent on this particular point. And that is essentially the main event scene. So the first highlight for me is going to be the Brock, Roman, Heyman interactions throughout this week. I think they're building it well. I'll be honest, I could be slightly negative and say it's a little bit confusing with the inclusion of Finn Balor, but we'll see how that's going to culminate. They're clearly building towards Brock, Roman. But I don't know. I think everything's working really well. I'm actually super intrigued by Brock as like he's by himself now kind of thing. It shouldn't really be as impactful as it is, but it is. Do you know what I mean? And it's got to be my first highlight. I think they're managing it well, and I'm intrigued. I'm super intrigued where we're going to go with it.
Yeah, I think to give SmackDown its due this week. I think it was a really, really good show, really strong. I think obviously anchored by everything that's going on with Brock and Roman and Paul Heyman, and I think the roller coaster ride that Paul Heyman went on this week was just something else, wasn't it? He was just like, no, you're my tribal chief, and then Roman turned on him, and he's like, okay, and then I'm going to do my Brock thing now, and then Brock turned on him. It was like he's all over the place, isn't he?
It's kind of I didn't know how I wanted it to pay off, but it is kind of paying off. Like, I always knew this would be a good story because, Heyman is he's synonymous with Brock. So it's straight away the minute he was representing Roman, we always thought what would happen if Brock come back, and I never knew what I wanted out of it, but I do think they're doing it really well, and it's made for a really fun story, and I'm on board with it, man.
Me too, definite highlight. Speaking of highlights, obviously, let's talk about Seth Rollins versus Edge. Really good, really, really good match. Maybe not as good as the one at SummerSlam, bit debatable, but either way, it was still really good. I think the thing that kind of drew it back slightly. It was just felt a little bit too contrived. At the end of the day, Edge took a couple of super kicks and a curb stomp. He didn't, he's been through worse with Randy. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, better put him on ambulance. I just think they're really overselling the neck thing now. It's like, he's back. He's clearly medically cleared. Just every time he loses,
I think
his
neck's made of like twigs or something now.
Well, exactly. So I don't know. It's a little bit contrived in that sense, but you can't deny the match itself was awesome. I think Seth Rollins.
I suppose it's what you typically say with the Cody matches. It's maybe a little bit overproduced. You know, we didn't really need that extra bit to give it, but
no,
still made for a great match.
The problem is at the minute in WWE is they don't want to let anybody just lose clean because they think it's going to damage them, and it's like, well, come on, like people can lose, it's fine, it is okay.
Well, I think we'll probably talk about this more on Whiskey and Wrestling because it's a place for tangents, but I do think that's the problem with modern wrestling, that like you can't take losses and you can't like be off screen or suddenly you're being buried. Mm-hmm. It's ridiculous, really. But I think you're right. I think the fact that I've mentioned more than once that Vince put the rule out there that there always has to be a reason for matches, and I think this is probably a symptom of that. Where it's like there has to be a big story, and it's like no, just they put on a really good match together. We want to see it again. That's the bottom line of it.
Yeah, definitely. But I think good character development maybe for Seth. Obviously, after he realised what he'd done and stuff like that, he seems to be going on like another little, weird spiral with his character now. But it's all good stuff. The match was good, and yeah, interested to see. I imagine that's the culmination of the feud now, maybe. So interesting to see where it goes from here.
Yeah, I do. It's probably too busy a scene at the minute, but I do eventually want to see Seth Roman. I think that's going to be a good payoff. Seth's always been an absolutely fantastic worker, so there's no doubt that's going to be a good match anyway.
Yeah, maybe could be like the vehicle that ends up turning him face, you know what I mean, or something, who knows, but
maybe.
Yeah, all in all, highlights from me.
Indeed. So next one, Carl, for me, and just to be confusing this week, I'm going to jump back to NXT, and I actually just want to give a general sort of compliment to NXT as a whole this week. This is obviously, for those who are listening now and expecting NXT tonight, this was the last of the old style NXT. We're getting NXT 2.0 as of tonight. And do you know what? It was a solid week for the matches in general. I mean, I'll give a particular shout out to the Kaylee Ray and Ember Moon match, MSK going up against Lorcan and Birch, and that's just to name a couple. It was a really nice card, a really stacked card, and I think they did really well considering the confusion and doubts I've had over the what they're doing there lately. I think this showed that maybe the new branding and what we could have going forward could be something really good. So just a general compliment to them, mate.
Okay, fair play. I will take that. I'll accept that, and I'm intrigued to see what happens from this week onwards with the rebrand. Interesting times ahead. And the last highlight we've got for WWE this week is an interesting one. Obviously, the Demon has returned. We've been quite vocal about Finn Balor, and just a pointy point.
Yeah.
Finger McPointy point as a gimmick. Not being the best, maybe, shall we say? I think I have long awaited the return of the Demon. But I don't know, this was still good. I was still marginally underwhelmed, I'm not going to lie. I don't even know why, but I'm glad that the Demon is back, is what I will say. So that's why it's a highlight.
Do you know what? Like, I'm glad the Demon's back. I'm glad that this, he's clearly not done with the gimmick, and I love the fact that they've always booked it really well. What I am worried about, and I know they couldn't protect it forever, but they've been protecting the Demon persona for a while now, and I think they've chosen this to be the one. And I think Roman's going to take out the Demon, and it's going to solidify him. Make Roman look strong, as the old modus operandi was. I feel like that's where we're going to go with this, and he is ultimately going to beat Finn as the Demon, which will be. I'm not like. There's plenty of smarks on the internet who'll correct me on this, so I'll be careful on it. He's not. He hasn't always won as the Demon. There have been losses, but not for a very long time. Because some clever dick does come out and go, oh, people always think that he's never lost as the Demon, but he has. And it's like, yeah, that somehow showed many moons ago, probably. But like certainly in terms of mainstream, go.
As a smark on the internet.
Go on, Mr. Smart.
So I know that didn't Samoa Joe beat him as the Demon? That's the only time I think I remember seeing him lose.
I struggle to remember. I know he has suffered a loss as the Demon, probably more than one, again, for the smarks on the internet. I can't remember who it was, if I'm honest, and my gut would say that you're probably right on the Samoa Joe thing. But the point for me, I suppose, is that it's not been... It's still not a very common thing, and no one really remembers that win, if I'm honest.
Yeah. Except
for the smart asses, obviously. So I think it's still going to be impactful, and they're still, I reckon, going to use it for that. And it's like, he's beat the Demon, you know. And I do think that's where they're going to go. And to be honest, it's not as much as, like, there's a time that I would have been so pissed off they did this with Roman. The Roman we've got right now, I think if that's going to be what they do before he faces Brock, just to maybe, like, make a point, I don't know, because it's another little step of being unstoppable, isn't it, I suppose?
Yeah.
So, I don't know. We'll see. It just... I don't know how I feel like that. You can't protect the Demon forever. That's all I'm saying. I'll have to live with it. Okay.
You know, much like Miro has a weakness for DDTs, maybe Demon has a weakness for Samoans. Maybe. We will come to find that out, I suppose. But
let's face it, if they were permanently unstoppable, they'd be a very boring character. So he has to be beaten anyway, doesn't he? You know?
Yeah, of course he does.
Same with Roman. At some point, Roman's going to have to be beaten on this incredible run he's having. Otherwise, it just makes for an incredible boring character.
I mean, and hopefully when that happens, it's it's either to set up somebody and actually make them a star, or it makes sense. It's not just something silly. But yeah,
this is where, like, for me, like, you kind of go, we've put so much into Roman now. Like, if Brock did win, that'd feel a little bit lackluster, because this could be used now to really push somebody.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's like, wow, they beat Roman. Like, he's had a fucking awesome run, and they managed to topple him. To give that to, like, Brock would be almost a shame.
Yeah.
But Brock's a monster, and you give Brock what he wants, so I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it is believable for Brock to win. He has beaten before, but we'll see. I don't think it'll happen, but at the same time, I don't know who they would give it to. So, yeah, interesting to see. I don't think it'd be the Demon, though. But, yeah, nice to have him back.
Indeed.
On to the first shite of the week. What are they doing to Drew, Anthony? What are they doing? He's so good. Makes me sad. Obviously, I'm a huge Drew fanboy. Everybody knows this. It was fine when he lost clean to Damian Priest, put him over. That was awesome. Now he loses to Sheamus.
Yeah.
I don't understand it, to be honest. They've taken a character who carried the company on his back, got, unnecessarily booed and, jeered by fans upon their return, to now giving him some weird I love swords gimmick, and now losing. Quite often when he was pretty much unstoppable force for a bit. So
he does like swords. I'll give you that.
He does. So yeah, the shite was just the fact he lost, and what are they doing to him? I get that some fans out there are turning on him for how dominant he's been over the years, but I don't know. This doesn't seem like the right way to handle it.
He only had a year's run with the title, and in that time he lost it twice.
It's a good point, actually.
He's not been as dominant as people make out. People are just like soured on him because they were all able to be at home and watch as much wrestling as they fucking wanted, and Drew was the face of it, basically.
Yeah,
I do feel bad for the guy. I think he needs he can't get it right now because the crowd are soured on him, like you say, but he needs a good run as a champion with a crowd.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't know what they're going to do for now, man.
This is where
I do actually sometimes think maybe we do need the what do you call him? The draft shake-up, superstar shake-up, whatever you want to call him anymore. Because I think being on Raw with the same people day in, day out is probably not going to help. So maybe mix it up a bit in that sense.
Yeah, he definitely needs something fresh now. I think he's beating everybody, and so what they're doing is just going, well, honestly, the Damian Priest, him putting Priest over, I thought was fantastic, and it was the right thing to do. Losing to Sheamus now, just on a random throwaway match with a silly little finish, I'm starting to think they're going to go on some weird Drew's losing all the time kind of gimmick, and then turn him heel or something. It's just lazy if they do that. It's been done a million times, so yeah, fresh competition would be beneficial for him, I think, but we'll see. But yeah, not a fan.
Agreed. So next one for me is Karrion Kross on the awfully named Moist TV. Just what are they doing to Karrion? I wasn't like I've said from the off, probably not from the off, but we've said for a while like he's not really. He was a big deal on NXT, and Scarlett was a really great hype man for him, but this whole main roster stuff has just been shocking. Like they've totally ruined the mystique around them completely. I just what the fuck have they done, Carl? What have they done?
I have no idea, mate. It's terrible, isn't it? Like to think how big of a fan we both were of him in NXT. Him and Scarlett together were money. Scarlett did a fantastic job at what she did. You mentioned the mystique and kind of stuff, but she made Karrion Kross. We said this. We said Scarlett was the breakout character. Karrion was just kind of along for the ride. And now that you take Scarlett away, it's like, well, oh no shit. Like Karrion Kross is awful. They've set him up as some kind of fucking gimp suit. They've had him talk, but he can't cut a very good promo. Like, what are they doing?
It's funny, isn't it? Because like he come in, like, do you remember when he first come in and they had that? Was it Tommaso he was after initially? And they were cutting all them vignettes where he's just looking menacing. He doesn't say a word, and then, as I say, Scarlett was really, really good at sort of hyping up him turning up, and then, like you say, it just turns out he's a guy who can't cut a promo.
Yeah.
Like, bottom line, without being like, don't want to be too negative, too disrespectful. He's obviously a talented fella, but he like, I don't know, he definitely needs. And it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's similar to Brock, isn't it? Brock's not exactly a talker. He's always had a mouthpiece, and it's a similar thing, other than him not being as big or destructive as Brock.
I mean, the problem is though, Brock has still got more charisma in his fucking pinky than Karrion Kross has got altogether. Like,
oh yeah.
You know what I mean? Like Brock with the little fucking. Well, I was going to say the little boombox thing, for example. Some of the promos he cuts. Some of the stuff he's done way back when with like Eddie and stuff as well. Like,
I know, yeah, that keeps resurfacing lately. It's one of the like most passionate or most, I suppose, true to life promos that he cut, wasn't it? Really?
Yeah.
So that keeps resurfacing lately, and you said like at that point he didn't have anyone, Brock, and he was talking for himself. No. So like you say, he can, and probably better than Karrion, in all fairness.
Like the problem is with Karrion as well, you can tell everything he's saying is scripted, and he's got to get his little catchphrase in there, which is a shit catchphrase as well. It's not even memorable. I can't remember what it is. Yeah, something like that. TikTok, and then just dances. It's like, no, not that TikTok. No, he has some stupid shit, doesn't he, that he says now about I can't think what it is. Yeah. So yeah, he sucks basically, as we expected. Speaking of sucking, so I said last week, Charlotte and Nia Jax was an absolute clusterfuck of a match. I said they had no chemistry together. There was a weird spot in there where they just basically got really physical and started to pretty much shoot on each other. And I was like, what the fuck happened there? And in typical WWE fashion, they went, there was some social media buzz about this. Let's book it again. Yeah, that right there, Nia's butt that you just put your finger up against. But like, legit, they went, oh yeah, we'll just do it again then, and it was just as awful. But they tried to play up the fact that they had a bit of legit beef the previous week, and it just didn't work at all. Like they were trying too hard to force something. So
this might be an unpopular comment, because she gets so much like, oh, she's one of the best women's wrestlers in the world, and she's had a fantastic career and had some fantastic matches. But is it just me, or since Charlotte come back from her time off, from her unknown reasons for being off, has she actually even put on a good match?
None that I can recall, unfortunately.
And I know she can. I know she's totally capable of it, and it might just be the lack of story and the lack of opponents. But like, even when she's had the opportunities to go up against like Rhea Ripley can go in the ring. Do you know what I mean? She's had, like, when she first came back, I think there was Asuka was the champion, so she had a back and forth with Asuka. All that should have been really good matches, and you go, well, what's kind of happened? Like, I'd love to put this all on Nia, but like, I don't know, there's just something at the minute. It just seems very, very clumsy about the in-ring work.
I mean, Charlotte and Nia
All
have
due
got
respect.
zero chemistry whatsoever. They are awful in the ring together. But to your point, Charlotte hasn't put on a fantastic match in a while. I don't know whether she's getting lazy and to the point where she's just like, I know that I'm, dead good and all this kind of stuff, and I can just put in a couple of moves here and there, and if I really need to pop the fans, I'll do my little moonsault off the top turnbuckle. Like, ooh, you know what I mean? Like, it's just become unexciting now. Like, it's just the same thing over and over again.
I mean, it might be an oversaturation because obviously we got a shit ton of Charlotte to the point we even joked about her being on an AEW so that she could be on every show every week. So we got a massive oversaturation over last year or during the pandemic. And maybe it's that. Maybe it's just like we've seen it just too much too often that like for me it just feels a bit underwhelming now. I don't know, but I don't know. I've not enjoyed a match of hers in a long time.
No, especially the one she's had with Nia. So yeah.
Indeed. So next one, Carl, and I think we can all agree, the tag team stuff.
Yeah.
Like this just really highlights a massive weakness in I'll say Raw, but like generally, WWE have always been shit with the whole tag team things. But when your tag division are getting the focus, it really points out your lack of sort of star power on Raw, especially. But I don't know, like because you could argue, the WWE champ, he's sort of in the mix, he's part of all that. But at the end of the day, like look what we're getting. We're getting Lashley going up against Orton. Like I don't even know. That just feels sort of random. Like I don't know. What do you make of all this mess? Because I just feel like they've never been great with the tag team stuff. This whole sort of mess this week, it's just I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's been a mess for a couple of weeks. I think we've had 3 or 4 consecutive Raw main events be some kind of tag team match. This week they went one step further and was let's make let's make a tag team turmoil thing, and it was just like, well, okay. And then, Lashley and MVP weren't even supposed to be in it, and then they got added into it via shenanigans, and then it was like, well, okay, they're now going to challenge for the tag titles, but Orton's going to challenge for the WWE title, and I don't know. I just think,
which I think gets a little bit too messy anyway. But do you not feel like as much as Orton, he's at that caliber, he any title scene he would deserve to be in? That just feels a bit random, doesn't it? Like, well, we've got nothing, so let's just do Orton. Whatever.
Well, exactly, like massively, like even like.
I wonder how that's going to turn out.
Even like, I know, yeah. If I was a betting man, but no, I think even the likes of AJ Styles, like surely him and Omos can just go the separate ways now. It doesn't have to be like a Omos turn on him. It's just you've got AJ Styles there.
I don't know if they necessarily need to go the separate ways. I just totally forget they're around. Like they've not really used them. Like they've been a team for ages, but they haven't, in terms of actual number of matches, they haven't really done a lot.
Yeah,
I don't know. Are they good or bad? I don't know.
But that is my point. You've got talent in there who are capable of, because that's what they're missing. They're missing that upper mid card scene, and they haven't even got much of a main event scene at the minute, which is why this whole clusterfuck's happening. You've got the likes of AJ Styles, Randy Orton, Riddle, Mustafa Ali, who are in the fucking tag scene, and it's like, well, these guys could be actually putting on.
I can only assume they have different writers for Raw than they do for SmackDown. I know. I think we reported like a while ago when they were making the reductions that they were condensing everything down to one team covering all the shows, or covering both shows because NXT was still separate at the time. But it feels like a world of difference. Like there's literally zero storytelling beyond like the main event scene, which is not particularly great anyway.
No, and I think when you've got a 3-hour show, and do you know what I mean? It's like that's if anything, you need to actually have a multi-layered kind of scene going on. You need to, but all we get is like flippy shit from Reginald, for the 24/7 scene and all that shit that's going on.
Don't get why he's a thing.
The US title's not really anything at all. As soon as Damian Priest won it, he was like, "Well, I'm going to challenge Bobby Lashley then for the world title," and it was like, "What? Like, okay,
why? That's not what you're meant to do."
Exactly, and then you just get a load of tag team matches just to close the show out every week. So yeah, I legitimately have no idea what Raw is doing at the minute, but it's terrible. I mean, it's been terrible for a while, but it's terrible in a different way now. It feels just pointless.
Yeah, I can only hope they book their ideas up, but there's something missing. There really is.
Mm-hmm. And the last shite, Anthony. Controversial, again, especially considering that we know where this goes, because we are a little bit behind. But Big E, for me, again, I'm not giving up on my points because I firmly believe it, right? I know I constantly complain about him, right? But he's not good. He's not ready. The character he has now is not ready to be a world champion. It just isn't. You know what I mean? Like, for anyone who doesn't know what goes on to happen in the future, next
do you know
week's
what?
show.
I think the problem with Big E is people can't hold the fucking water.
Mm.
If you look at, like, back in the day, how many world champions had only ever really held the IC title once? And correct me if I'm wrong, but Big E, that's the only time he's held a mid-card title.
Mm-hmm.
And then jumped to the main event scene. Just
Yeah.
doesn't fucking happen. He's put really zero time in. And I find it almost like it disrespects the US and IC titles, because it's like that scene means nothing because he held it for a little bit and now he's entitled to go for the big championship. And then you flood the main event scene, and then you quite clearly, quite obviously, your IC title scene and US title scene are fucking piss poor because of it.
Yeah.
Like, he should still be going around that scene and putting in the work. And now it's like, and people might go, oh, he's been there for years. He has, but they haven't done anything with him for years. Like, how many titles has he held by himself? He's been there for years in a trio, dancing.
I legit do not get why people lose their shit for this guy, right? Don't get me wrong, by all accounts, he's a wonderful fella. Everyone loves him. He's a top-class bloke.
Yeah.
All that stuff, completely cool with. I get it, 100%. I'm so happy that he's doing really well, right?
That's the thing. As an individual, he's an awesome guy. And that's why we always talk about the character rather than the individual, because...
as a character, is not a world champion. He isn't, because he hasn't evolved from the time he was in the New Day. He hasn't evolved in the slightest. The stuff he does on SmackDown that he has been doing, where he rocks up with his little briefcase and does a little... like, that's a fucking bad comedy bit. That isn't a world title.
Let's look at the facts, right? If... let's try and give a parallel. If Triple H had have gone on to his world title runs, still being the Triple H from D-Generation X, but by himself, it would have felt just as weird, wouldn't it?
No.
Why not?
You wouldn't have at all, because Triple H actually still had a character. Big E is nothing. Big E
that's my point though. Triple H evolved as a character. He didn't remain. He didn't walk around constantly by himself making off-color jokes and telling people to suck it. He evolved as a character when he struck out on his own.
Right. Okay. I see what you're saying. Yeah.
That's what Big E's failed to do. Big E is still the guy he was in New Day, just like you say. But I'm trying to give a parallel to that. Is like, you watch how people did evolve from the factions that they were in, and that's exactly what he needed to do and hasn't done.
Yeah, Big E, he's got no character. He is a mess. He is a fucking mess. He legitimately is. He's there doing weird laughs. He rocks up. He cut a promo this week on SmackDown. It was shit. It was awful. And it was like, well, why? I don't get it. I don't get it. He's got the talent. He's a wonderful fella as well. He needs some serious character development. That's what I don't understand.
And you know what? Again, spoilers, because obviously we know what's happened, but we're not recording that episode yet. So I'm going to slightly delve into it, so I do apologise. But what they're going to do as well is, rather than actually go, let's put some time in to that development, they're going to put him back with the New Day.
Yeah.
For safety. Going to give him a safety net back. And that's fine. I suppose it could work. And I'm going to hold my breath on that one and see if it works. But it's going to be a very similar run to Kofi, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, 100% it will be, because that is the only way it can work. Because he has absolutely flopped as a single star. 100%. And I honestly cannot fathom why everybody is so, completely in love with the Big E character, because he hasn't got a character. I get being in love with the guy he is, and everybody loves him because he's a fucking stellar stand-up guy, and everyone can respect that.
I think that's most of what it is, though. Like, we've all been watching wrestling that long, and there's a generation younger than us who, like, Big E's their, like, guy who's been there forever for them, when he's not for us, do you know what I mean? We're too long in the tooth. But, like, he's been there forever, and it's like, oh, yeah, made up for him, and they're too busy being made up for him because he is an awesome guy, that they don't, like... it's similar to like Kofi Mania, to be honest. Everyone got behind Kofi, but the reality
that's the difference.
It wasn't sustainable.
No, but that's the difference. Kofi he stood out. He still did. You know, he had Kofi Mania. He had, you know, real raw fucking promos where he got you to feel for him. Big E's just there, just doing the same old fucking tired shit he was doing in New Day. The main
time I felt for Kofi was when he was getting ragdolled around the ring by Brock Lesnar in about 2 minutes.
Well, yeah, there was that as well. But yeah, like Kofi for me was a million times better than what Big E's been as a single star. And, you know, I'd love to be proved wrong. I would love for him to absolutely flourish, you know, being back with the New Day, and, you know, maybe that's going to make him a main eventer because he was always better with New Day, who knows. But what I've seen of him as a single star on SmackDown by himself, he's not ready to be a world champion. So let's see. I'm interested to see where it goes, but I'm not optimistic. Oh, shite as fuck for me this week. It was terrible.
Love it.
I
shouldn't, but I love
it. So that was WWE this week, Anthony. What are you thinking? What are you thinking in terms of ratings?
Me? What am I thinking? 2.5.
Of course you are. You saw what I put. You stole it.
No, well, if you'd have gone first, I'd have gone, well, I totally agree. But I'm 2.5 for slightly different reasons, because I feel like you don't really care or want to give NXT much credit. And that's no disrespect, by the way. Or that's not me having a pop. I just feel like, you know, you're probably less enamored by it this week than I was. Whereas like I'd probably give it a 2, but that extra half comes from the NXT. It surprised me.
Okay, that is fair. It gets 2.5 for me because I think SmackDown was a fucking stellar show. SmackDown saved it all. Raw was terrible. NXT was NXT. It happened. It was there. SmackDown, I felt, was one of the better shows WWE've put out in a long, long time. It felt really, really good from start to finish. You know, it had a lot of big moments in there. There was a lot of stuff going on. Good matches. You know, Edge and Seth. The stuff with Paul Heyman. Like it was a stellar show. So for me, that 2.5 is pretty much solely for SmackDown. Like NXT, you know, will get like a 0.75 or whatever by default. Raw was terrible. Didn't have a single highlight really for me. So yeah, SmackDown saved it all, in my opinion. SmackDown saved it all. So moving swiftly on to AEW. First highlight I want to talk about: Maxwell Jacob Friedman, MJF himself, starting up a feud with Brian Pillman in his hometown. Loved it. Thought it was really, really good. It mixed it up. I think obviously MJF coming off his loss with Jericho. You know, he needed something else to move on to and to, you know, step up his heel work again. And, you know, Pillman Jr. was a fine example of that. He was, you know, typical MJF heel fashion, just going all in, no pun intended, on the Pillman family and, you know, the people in attendance and Brian Pillman Jr. himself. And, you know, it sets up something nice. It gives Brian Pillman Jr. an opportunity to step up a little bit. And it gives probably
him stepping away from the Varsity Blondes.
I don't think it is, to be honest. I think I think it's WWE because they've done this before with the likes of like Dante Martin and stuff like that. I think it's given certain guys, and like Jungle Boy, he still wrestles matches with Jurassic Express, doesn't he? I think it's given guys with potential opportunities to have those singles feuds. Like, no way is Pillman going to beat MJF in this feud. But it's going to give him time with MJF.
It's going to give him TV time. It's going to elevate him a bit. But
exactly, and by proxy, that will elevate Pillman. So I think it's a good choice. It's good for Brian. It's good for MJF. He'll be able to go back to being a fucking fantastic heel like he always is. And obviously, it'll be good for Pillman to get some exposure to, you know, upper mid card, you know, slightly borderline main event scene. So yeah, thought it was really, really good for me.
No, I couldn't agree more. I think speaking of stellar feuds, the next highlight I'd probably give for AEW this week would be Omega Danielson.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we all knew this was going to be heading this direction with the way Danielson debuted. And let's be honest, it's not going to be anything other than fantastic. Like, we know, I've never been massive on Danielson as a promo guy. I know we got the Yes Movement going, you know what I mean? As a promo guy, not so much. But Omega, fair play to him. He can talk. Do you know what I mean? I know sometimes like you can go, the fuck? Like they're a bit out there sometimes with some of the gimmicks and some of the stuff they do, but for the most, he is a fantastic heel. In all fairness, he plays that obnoxious heel really, really well, and I'm all for this. I think this is probably a better start in AEW than Punk got. In all fairness, and that's no disrespect to Darby Punk, but coming in to a feud with Omega is a really fucking solid way to do it, and especially for these two. Obviously, they've got some history that I am not tremendously aware of, but this is the point. We can bring it to a more of a mainstream, more of a TV audience, you know.
Are you telling me you've not seen these two do Ring of Roses in the Ring and Ring of Honor? Really? You've got to look that up. It's a wonderful entertainment for everybody.
I need to look that up. But no, it makes for some very interesting stuff. Like we saw, I honestly, I don't know if I'd have been upset with it, but like when Adam Cole came out, I was thinking that's where they were going to go, and then he obviously turned heel, as it were, and aligned himself with them instead, which again is an interesting way to go. But no, I was more than happy to see Danielson, and I'm more than happy with what's going on here. So, got to give it a highlight. I think it's some solid work, and I'm truly looking forward to the climax. Feels a bit weird saying that.
What kind of show are you watching?
Can't wait to see the climax.
No, I think you're right. It's well documented that Danielson came in wanting to work with the top guys and to fucking, put on fantastic matches, go for the world title, and Punk wanted to come in and elevate the youngsters and stuff like that. So, that's been spoken about at length. So I think you're right. Danielson coming straight in, going for the top dog, feels good, feels big. I'm stoked to see this match. If we have to wait all the way till Full Gear to get this, it's going to be a fucking hell of a wait. But at the same time, it's probably worth the wait. The part of me which still feels a bit, on the fence is around what's going to happen with Hangman now, because I still want to see Omega and Hangman. They've built such a fantastic story. So I think Danielson coming in, if he beats Kenny for the title, where does that leave Kenny and Hangman Page? So
I'm a bit torn because I don't necessarily. I kind of want to see Danielson take the win, but I don't necessarily need him to have the title. I don't even really want him to have the title. So I'm not sure how they're going to book that in some ways. I'd have actually preferred, and I know situations happened, and I know Hangman's having a bit of time off for obvious reasons, but I'd have much preferred if he'd have suffered the loss to Hangman and wasn't the title holder when he went into this feud with Bryan. Yeah. Because neither of them need the belt in this feud.
Completely agree. The only way I could see this potentially, going down in a way that I'd be super happy with is if Adam Cole gets involved and costs Danielson the match, sets up Cole versus Danielson, which I think everyone wants to see, and then, who's next for Omega? Hangman returns. Fucking.
That's a good way of doing it.
Be amazing, to be fair. So,
well, it's AEW, so we know we're going to get some big faction stuff as well. So there's going to be like a massive group versus a massive group at some point, naturally.
Of course there is. Well, I mean, what would you rather? Would you rather, I can't remember what the stat was, fucking 600 rematches or fucking 60? No, what was it? It was like 6 versus 60 odd one.
Oh, it was ridiculous. Like they were definitely in the digits were like, I feel like it might have been triple digits for WWE. I don't know.
It might have been.
But it was ridiculous anyway compared.
Yeah, it's one of them. Like, I can get the criticisms, people saying, "Oh, there's so many multi-man matches because the roster's too big. They've got to feature everyone and stuff like that." But I think when you're talking about the elite as a faction, and stuff, then it's okay. I don't think they do it. I don't think they overdo it. But yeah, it's probably borderline at this point in terms of the amount of faction stuff they do. But, we need ways to not have the same matches happen all the time. And then it's got 50-50 booking, and then you have to have some kind of blow off at the end. And it's like, well, can we not just build to a fucking match everyone wants to see? And AEW haven't been fantastic at this. They've dropped the ball a number of times. They've waited too long, or multiple different ways. But ultimately, you get the match you want to see.
They're so up and down though, because like I think, and it's probably something you don't even realize, but like we are all still, and I'm speaking for everyone here, so apologies for anyone listening who totally disagrees with me. We are all still hyped and ready for Hangman Omega. Doesn't need to be on our screen every week, and I think it's some of them complaining I'll go into and I'll go on some tangents later with you, Cal. But like I think that's the problem, is that they think that you need to have them like this week again. And it's not an O'Shea. Well, it actually is, but I'll let you talk about that when we get to it. CM Punk speaks. why does he speak? Just because we need him on the screen. He has to be on the screen, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Can't have a week off.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and he just goes back to speaking. He's had a match. Like, we'll go back to just speaks now.
That's right, though, because
like
they're changing it up for this week's show because they're having him on commentary as a special guest, so that's different.
Good, do something.
but no, anyway.
I don't feel like they need to constantly be there all the time, and I think that would help in terms of like showcasing some other people. Like it wouldn't like Danielson Omega is a perfect example. Like we don't need to now see Danielson Omega in some capacity every week. There could be weeks where you don't, or you just see one of them.
Yeah, I think
we still build to that.
It's hard with like people who they've just signed because people are tuning in to see them.
I know. I do get that. Like CM Punk's going to be like rammed down your throat for a little bit, as is Brian, as is Adam Cole and Ruby Soho. But at the same time, it's like you can't just go, "Oh, they're going to speak this week," because I think that'll sour people pretty quick anyway.
Yeah, I mean, it's mad how stacked that roster is, and if you think about the people we don't see on a weekly basis, you know, already, like Cody's away for a bit, Hangman's away for a bit. You know, we're going to talk about
Cody's away, but we have to talk about him.
We're going to talk about it in the news, but Brian Cage, you know, hasn't been used very often. You know, Lance Archer, people like this, there's talent there who we don't see all the time still. So yeah, the roster is stacked.
People are fucking moaning like, "Oh, all the new XWE talent are taking over," and I'm like, for fuck's sake, because it almost proves their point, but it shouldn't, because that's not what's happening. They're trying to get eyes on the product, and they're still trying to look after their homegrown talent. Damn it. But absolutely stacked roster, like you say.
Yeah, I agree.
Omega Danielson was a good thing.
It was. Speaking of good things, Anthony, we got to see the match that we wanted to see it all out, and it delivered on Rampage. We got to see Pac versus Andrade El Idolo. Fantastic match. Two wonderful guys, just fucking immense talent, the pair of them, just so unbelievably good. And
I know it was largely situational, but I really love the respect they're given to Rampage as a weekly show by giving us a pay-per-view quality match.
Yeah. I think I think the format of Rampage is doing really well as well. They've just got like, you know, 3 matches, a couple of like promos, and then like the Mark Henry, you know, interview segments. That seems to be the format.
I'm really enjoying it so far. I like this sort of almost quite condensed. Like, I don't know if it's just refreshing, like to go from like a 3-hour fucking show to a 1, but like I'm really enjoying this almost condensed version of wrestling that I'm getting. It's great.
I know. I feel that like the balance that they have at the minute is really, really good, because you get 3 good matches. You do get like promos and things that happen that build feuds, or like, you know, like this week we got Brian Danielson. Sorry, Daniel Bryan. We had Brian Danielson and Adam Cole doing their kind of first interviews almost and stuff. So like that, they put that on Rampage. I mean, obviously it went on to go to socials and stuff like that, but it's things like that. It gives people a reason to tune in, because they're gonna see something, and they're gonna see good matches, and they're gonna see feuds like go on and stuff. So yeah, but yeah, you know, this match was fantastic. I think both of these guys, it's mad to think you've got the caliber of Andrade and Pac, who are just like, they're not in the main event scene. They're not even in like the TNT title scene really at the minute. They're just fucking part of the roster is insane. So the fact you get to see these is just almost like just a normal standard match. I mean, we didn't even have Malachi Black on All Out. Like, honestly, it's insane. Like it's one of the reasons I wanted to have next week's segment talking about WWE versus AEW if you were to book it and stuff, because like the roster is mad. It is mental. So I think there's a lot of stuff to talk about there. But yeah, this match for me was awesome, as I expected it to be, and we got it on Rampage. So yeah. All good.
It delivered, and it delivered it for free, just like Amazon Prime.
And you know, after the match, Andrade did turn on Chavo Guerrero as well, who basically got involved and helped Andrade win the match. So what does that mean for Chavo? What does it mean for Andrade and Chavo's relationship? Who knows?
Chavo, what's that mean? What does it mean for you, Chavo?
I know. Let us know, Chavo. Tell us. Please tell us soon.
Sorry, you go on. You feel like you're going to say some more things?
I'm done.
Oh, fine. I just want to to my last highlights for AEW this week. Ruby Soho going up against, I forgot her first name for a sec, so I'm just going to go with that sort of mind fart and just call her Hater. Help me, Carl. What's her first name? It's totally gone out of my head.
Jamie
Hater.
Jamer.
Thank you. Jesus Christ. You know, one of the things, like, I know the name, and it's just, now the more I try and remember it now, it's just not going to come back to me. So, Ruby Soho going up against Jamie Hater. A fantastic match, and I think this is one of them things where, like, in some ways it was obvious Ruby was going to get the win because they're trying to really push her at the minute. Like, she's a big deal, and they're treating her like a big deal. I feel like they execute this perfectly because Jamie Hayter made it work for this victory, and it actually showed me, like, this is no disrespect to Jamie Hayter when I say this, but she's like a totally different person. Like, she's been away for a while, and, like, I don't know what it is, and it's not to say she was no good before, but she's totally on a different level to herself now, and I feel like they both put on an absolutely fantastic match. And again, she made Ruby work for the win, and I think there were points in there where I'm like, are they maybe going to go a different direction here? But it went for the result I expected, but like I think that the match just really performed. So I want to give that a highlight.
Just a minor sidebar as well. Do you not just fucking love, like, you know, the fact they've got the Ruby Soho song and stuff as well? Like, it's fucking good, isn't it?
It is. I love the fact that this is something like people like will go, oh, doesn't really matter, but this is something that like I wish WWE would start doing again, because they've sort of abandoned licensed music because it saves money, and I totally miss this. I totally miss when they put some effort into the theme musics. Like, do you remember there was a time when it was like everything was licensed music, like, and it didn't. Don't get me wrong, it's like it doesn't like have to be. Sometimes like at the end of the day, this might not work. I can't remember if it's licensed or not, but like Hulk Hogan coming out to Real American versus Voodoo Child, I'm totally fine with Real American, so it doesn't always have to be like a proper song, as it were. But there was some absolutely banging tunes that WWE had, especially in the Attitude Era.
Sometimes they get it fucking wrong as fuck, and you have John Moxley coming out to Wild Thing, so it's not always the best thing, because I fucking hate that. I hate that.
There's something really... WWE's theme musics at the minute just feel like stuff that they were letting us pick in the Creative Wrestler mode on SmackDown on the PS2.
Yeah.
Like, that's what it feels like. So you got these generic random tunes.
And the problem is as well, about four or five of the main roster have got the same fucking song. Like, boom, 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 like, it's the same song, basically.
And I just feel like there's more... It feels more... what's the word? Impactful, what they've got going on with their theme music now. Like, the minute a lot of people's music, even ones that, again, I would argue Orange Cassidy's, you might disagree with me on this, doesn't necessarily suit him, but the minute it hits, you know it's him. Do you know what I mean? So it works. And it's quite low energy, so I get what they're doing. But yeah, I don't know. I do really like what they're doing with the music. And like you say, the Ruby Soho music works perfectly. So
I mean, it's probably the best example of using the licensed music, I think. Even the way they did the vignettes as well, like her missing the train and, like, you know, destination unknown, and then it's like destination unknown because she's arrived, and it's like fucking hell, like fantastic. So it does work really, really well. So Anthony, there's only one O'Shite this week for AEW.
Yes,
and I'm keen to get your thoughts on it, because I felt massively underwhelmed by this. You had CM Punk come in, you know, go after Darby, and the match was fantastic. You know, the feud was fantastic. I love Darby. I love Punk. You know, Darby felt elevated off the back of it. Punk had a fantastic return. You know, super high. And you come on to the next night. The first show after the pay-per-view, and Punk is there, and Taz gets on the mic and starts saying, "Don't you talk about Team Taz?" And he's like, "Well, I wasn't." And then Team Taz come out, and he's like, "Well, yeah, you know, come at me, Team Taz." And it's like, really? Like, if it was Ricky Starks, maybe I could kind of get it. But like, Ricky Starks wasn't even there. It was fucking Hook and what's his face, Will Hobbs. So it was like, well, really? Like, is this what we're doing for Punk next? Like, wow.
I agree with you. I was massively underwhelmed. I don't know. It felt, like you say, it felt a little bit like maybe somebody missed the cue. I don't know. Like, the whole promo felt a little bit odd. But, like, is this, like you say, is this really what we're going for? Are we just arbitrarily picking young talents and then Punk can elevate them? I don't understand. Like the minute he even uttered the word Hook, I was like, really? Hook's gonna be the next one? It's probably not, but still.
Like, yeah, baffling. Like honestly, if it would have been Ricky Starks, sound. Maybe that's where they're going with it. But
that would have worked for me.
Maybe it's a little bit convoluted way of getting there, but yeah, like if that is the destination known, then yeah, down for that. But yeah, I don't want to see him against Hook. Like, who does? And I don't think Will Hobbs at this point that makes sense either. So, but yeah, fuck it, it's gonna be Punk versus Taz. Why not? So yeah, I don't know. I think going from Derby to Team Taz feels like a bit of a downgrade. So we'll see where it goes. Obviously, it's going to carry on. They've got Punk on.
So many different combinations people have been sort of clambering for. A notable one that doesn't seem to have a feud at the minute. Alistair Black. Everyone's been asking for Black versus Punk for a while anyway, and neither of them have a current feud. So it just kind of would have made sense. But then they don't want to. I get it because they wouldn't want to feed Punk to Black, and they don't want Black to take the loss. So I get what they're doing, but at the same time, it's like that was a feud right there, and instead we're getting CM Punk versus Hook, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is as well, like if it ends up being Punk versus Starks, that'll be worthwhile in my opinion. The problem we've got is it's not even really a problem, but AEW only has 4 or 5 pay-per-views or main shows a year, so to go off from Derby to then Malachi straight away would be a fucking terrible idea. That is definitely it's definitely going to happen 100%, and everybody wants to see it. But I think going from Derby to Malachi straight away, it creates that paradox, like you say. Who wins that? Because you're going to bury someone, and you're not really burying. Everyone can take a loss. No, but you've got 2 guys coming in who are hot and trying to make momentum.
Yeah.
That match will happen, but I think it's going to be either Double or Nothing or even All Out next year. It's going to be a long time away. They're going to build it up to a point where there'll be a couple of near misses where you're is this going to happen? And then it won't. And it's just going to tease that excitement, I think.
I take your point. I think it's about the momentum, isn't it? It's not about burying, but they're both building momentum. So you can't really put them together just yet. So I take your point. It'll probably have to be next year.
Mm-hmm.
So fuck it, we'll go with Punk versus Taz. I'm going with Taz. That'd probably be my favourite option right now.
I mean, it's funny because Hook has become almost like a bit of a meme, hasn't he, on the internet? Everyone is a big Hook fan. On Reddit and stuff, everyone's the GOAT, and they always post stuff about Hook. So it's always quite funny. But if it's going to be Punk versus Starks, then I'm down for it. If it isn't, then what a waste. So yeah, it gets a no shite because it wasn't what I was expecting, and I'm not totally sold at the moment. But that was it for AEW, Anthony. I was toying with this. I originally had this down as a 2.5, right? I was really underwhelmed with AEW following All Out. You had the best pay-per-view they've ever put on, probably. Fantastic top to bottom card, and culmination of loads of feuds and loads of exciting stuff, and then it just felt so underwhelming, Dynamite. But we did get, obviously, Danielson and Omega, which was a big standout. We did get MJF and Pillman, which was a big standout. And then, obviously, we got, Rampage, which I thought delivered again just on so many levels. So, for me, Dynamite was underwhelming. Rampage was fantastic. So, I'm going to give it a 3. It was better than WWE this week. It was, but not by much. And it was underwhelming versus how, post... I don't know what it is. I think WWE do a fantastic job, post-Mania and stuff like that. The following show you see is always fucking boom, new feuds, exciting, that kind of thing. And All Out is AEW's biggest pay-per-view. So I just thought they were going to go...
First, isn't it?
I thought, especially based off all the momentum they had and all the eyeballs they had on it, that Dynamite was going to be fucking phenomenal. And I was just so underwhelmed. So that's the reason it gets a 3. But Rampage, as we said, fantastic hour. I don't think you can have a better hour of wrestling on a product.
Yeah, I dare say that, to be honest. I would agree with that. I think because it's so tightly packed, I think they have to be careful how they book it, and therefore they actually book it better, strangely. But no, I totally agree. And I actually agree with your rating. I'm going to go with the 3 as well. I want to give particular mention again to Soho and Hayter. I think that was a fantastic match.
Yeah, I think anyone given, I feel like she's been disrespected already quite a bit, Ruby. People are like, oh, who cares? They've got Ruby. It's all about Punk and Danielson. Bullshit.
It's a great sign about that. I'll save it for.
We'll do that in Whiskey Wrestling. Yeah,
because the way people think, and it pisses me off. And it's Ruby Soho that's made me realise that people are just. I mean, I think everyone knows that wrestling fans can be quite fickle, but the whole mentality just puzzles me. But I'll hold that for Whiskey and Wrestling because it's one that's been bugging me all week.
Okay. So just to wrap up then the show, going elsewhere, just 2 points to mention. So firstly on Impact, we had the wonderful Mickie James, friend of the show, on Impact this week, hyping up the feud with Deonna Purrazzo. As we know, she got back in the ring for the first time in a while at NWA 73, and Deonna Purrazzo attacked her after the match. So this is setting up a feud quite nicely, and I thought she did a fantastic job. She basically said, Deonna's not dealing with the producer now who asked her to come on in Power. She's dealing with Hardcore Country, and it was just like, fuck yeah, like Mickie,
yes,
I want to see this shit.
I'm all for it, man. I mentioned when she was having a match at NWA 73, like I definitely want to see her have another run in the ring because the last one we got obviously was the WWE run, which just felt disrespectful. So I'm made up to see that they're building more. Yeah, I love the relationship with Impact as well. I'll Forbidden Doors open everywhere it's possible.
Absolutely. So loving that. And keeping it in the Aldis household, the final thing to talk about this week, Nick Aldis was on NWA this week after losing his title. After 1,044 days to the one and only Trevor Murdoch, he addressed his future and what it means. And it was just a fantastic promo by him. It was, for someone who's been the champion for that long, I mean, how long is that? 1,044 days? Like, what, 3 and a bit years? Or like
it's a long time.
Nearly 3 years, something like that. Maths. Yeah. But yeah, he basically said, this is the family business. Mickie came out and stuff as well with him, and he basically just said that he's not done yet. He's going to get it back and stuff. So I loved it. I thought it was a really strong promo and excited to see where they go with it.
A lot of people were probably expecting him to leave NWA, so like it certainly seems like he's not done with NWA either, which is great for them.
Absolutely.
And I don't know what it is lately, but NWA, they seem to be putting themselves on the map more and more. We could end up with another. This might be a ridiculous comment, like at this stage, but if they keep up the momentum they're getting and keep pushing the envelope the way they're doing, could this be another legitimate threat to WWE at some point, or to both? Because if they build themselves up and you get a decent TV spot, there's no reason you can't be.
No, I think it's a fantastic alternative at the minute. It's got a retro feel. It's like proper old school, like
it has got that like
80s wrestling. Like a proper territory style wrestling. So, yeah, I mean, well, it's what the NWA is. It's like the oldest American promotion in the game. So, I love that. That's
why they've always got that. I'd love to see them get more prominence and get a TV spot. Because like you say, it's got that retro feel, and that's exactly what NWA is.
Yeah, and it's got a decent little roster there as well, and especially the fact that other people are allowed to work for the promotion and stuff like that. The world is their oyster at the minute. They've got a good chance now as they've had in a long time to get back to prominence and get they had a lot of eyeballs on them for Empower and for 73. So it's a good time for NWA at the minute, and I hope they capitalise on it. So
definitely. Yeah.
But yeah, that was it. That was this week in wrestling. We did it in under an hour. We try our best, but things need talking about. Raw itself is 3 hours, so you've got to cut some slack. But yeah, another fun-filled week. I'm going to have some thoughts on what happened this week. It's Tuesday. We're not stupid. We know what happened on Raw last night. We know I ain't a fan. So we'll talk about that next week as well. But yeah, thank you for tuning in, for listening to us chat about the previous week in wrestling.
Tuning in,
and listening. Brandy. No, it's
whiskey.
But yeah, so we will be back talking all the latest news and rumours and whatnot in the Ringside Report after some lovely words from some lovely people.
You're watching or listening
to A2theK.
The A2theK.
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 These guys are awesome. Check it out.
Check it out. Change your life. You'll be thanking me later.